The baseball season, of course, underway. Phillies and Mets tonight. Zach Eflin and Zach Wheeler will get the call for the Mets. Mets owned the Phils last time those two went at it. We'll get into some Philly stuff, some MLB stuff. Seth Everett joins us from NBC Sports Radio, NBC's MLB insider here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Listen to Seth on NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports talk network. Get him at NBCSportsRadio.com. What's happening, my friend?
What's going on, Mike? And, the last time two Zachs faced off against each other, there's a great little nugget there.
Lay it on me.
I wonder how fast. If Chris Wheeler was still around, he'd mention this in, the Open. But the last time was Zach Greinke against Zach Duke.
How about that? And are they both Z-A-C-H's, these two Zachs?
I think Wheeler is Z-A-C-K.
All right.
But I'm not going to quote that. When they take you to Baseball Insider School, they don't ask you to spell.
All right.
They don't ask me to spell Ender Inciarte either.
No, former Philly himself. They let him walk away. Let's get into them real fast. I want to get your opinion on the job that Matt Klentak is doing, because you know Philadelphia well, Seth, and it seems that there's no pressure on this team. Not that there deserves to be, but you know Philadelphia. It's like no one is paying attention to what they're doing over there. So is Matt Klentak doing a good job? Is it good of the fans to kind of just let them be until something happens here? At what point should people start looking at the Phillies and start to be critical or praise the job Klentak? It seems that team's just existing.
No, it's a hard question because it doesn't, wash with what Philadelphia mentality is and Philadelphia sports. But, every year I take the list of 30 teams and I try to see how many teams take an upswing. I literally just point an up arrow or a down arrow. And, for the Phillies, last year was the first time that I put them on an up arrow. I just thought that they had finally turned the corner. Now, Mike, if you want to go back in time, we could say that when Ryan Howard tore his Achilles in the 2011 season, they should have broke that thing down right then and there, and they would have the fruits of this labor now. They waited 3 years too long, so that by 2014, that franchise was wallowing in this just treading water, trying to stay afloat. Whereas now it's been revamped. We can go position by position, and there's something to be said. I was at the home opener, and I literally did not discern one applause for any player that shined above the others. If there was anyone, it was Freddie Galvis, and I'm sorry, that doesn't fly. There's nobody to connect to. There's nobody to ride the emotional wave with. So I think it's a wait-and-see attitude, and all I say to that is let's just see if the pitching comes around, if Nola is a real starter, if Eichhoff the same. Just let's see if there's some growth so that at the end of the year you feel better about where the team is than at the front. Does that translate into a win total? Let's just say this. It's not going to be above 81.
By the way, research shows that Zach Wheeler's with a K and Zach Eflin's with an H. Seth Everett is with us.
Oh, how about that? I got that. All right.
I agree. Today is the yes, my crack staff figured that out for us. Today is the anniversary of Mike Schmidt's 500th home run, and I bring that up because, as you just said, there is no connectable guy. By the way, 30 years for Mike Schmidt's 500th home run. There is no connectable guy here.
God, are we old?
Yes, we are. I remember him churning around the bases, and I don't remember a lot, but there is no connectable guy. You're right about that. I feel like that's the problem is in those 2004-5 years, you had Utley and Rollins and Hamels and all these guys on the horizon that you were excited for. There's guys you're excited for, but are any on that level?
No, it's not that connection yet, and there will be. I mean, it's the first time. This is another thing. Citizens Bank Park is one of my favorite parks, and I love walking around there. And I don't sit still, during a baseball game unless I'm doing post game or something, And so what I do when I walk around, if you look at the jerseys that are being sold around there, it's all players that aren't there anymore. I mean, there's not. I didn't see a jersey. Now, this wasn't a scientific experiment here, so I'm not going to sit here and say that there wasn't any. But it's not. There's nobody for the cover of the program, And that doesn't necessarily mean that these players don't have talent. Maikel Franco is somebody that I'd like to see blossom. Hernandez at second, I'd love to see him blossom, but he hasn't yet. And that's not to say that I'm trying to retard the progress or accelerate the progress. But what I'd love to see is this all just turn into somebody that they can connect to. And I'll make a parallel. The Brewers are in a very similar situation that the Phillies are in. They're building. I would say the Brewers are probably a year ahead of the Phillies as far as building up that system under a new general manager, and it's pretty much the same model. And the Brewers have this kid, this Eric Thames, who came over as a free agent from South Korea, and he's got 7 home runs in 10 days. Already, people are starting to pronounce his name correctly, and it's not like there's nothing tangible there. But it's just amazing how often that doesn't happen and how quickly that has evolved. I have been blown away, literally blown away, with what has gone on. And the way it has gone on, in my estimation, to show just this one guy. I teased because Fox Sports Wisconsin, and you got, I love Tom McCarthy and everybody, Jamie Moyer, and I know he's not there this year, but I was watching Fox Sports Wisconsin, and I watched a chunk of the Brewers game. Ryan Braun hit a home run, and they showed it 6 times. I had the sound off, and I thought he had a multi-homer game. They literally could not stop showing this one Ryan Braun home run, to which I would say is, God, they are holding on to any piece of a superstar they can. And that's what Carlos Ruiz was. You know what I'm saying? That's what these guys represented. It was just our guy. And that, it's the water cooler. Did you see the home run Howard had? Or did you see J-Roll? You had those connections. And all I would say is just remember what 2003 and 2004 were like with the emergence of those players. Nobody had their jersey then either.
By the way, you want to feel old again, Citizens Bank Park is the oldest ballpark in the National League East. How about that?
That's amazing. That's amazing. I remember when I saw the vet implosion.
Yeah, how soon before they start talking about a new ballpark? How soon do they start before they start talking about a new ballpark in Philadelphia?
Well, if this was Georgia, if this was Georgia, they'd have already broken ground.
Crazy. Real quick, couple quickies.
Georgia, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment of riches. What's going on in Atlanta? There's nothing wrong with Turner Field.
Nothing.
And Turner Field, if you had Green Lantern's power ring, I'd love to take Turner Field and give it to either Oakland or Tampa.
A couple quickies with Seth Everett from NBC Sports Radio with us here. Real quick, Baltimore is in the East right now. They lead Houston and the Tigers. Any of those three, not real.
Well, I'll talk about the Orioles because they're a team that I covered very closely and I've had a lot of dealings with, and I know Buck Showalter pretty well. And, I like what that team is putting together. The thing that I saw, I did a show in Baltimore in the offseason, and I recognize the contract status of Manny Machado and Chris Tillman. Chris Tillman's a free agent after this year. And Machado's next year. Everybody talks about Bryce Harper, right? It's Bryce Harper in the time, and how much the Nationals better win a World Series or two before Bryce Harper leaves to go play for the Yankees. That's just the perception, which, by the way, I don't think happens. And the funny part about it is the Orioles have the same sense of urgency. Just because they're not boasting about it, that is a team that is not going to stay together for a while. That is a lineup that people literally need to take a step back. Manny Machado, Adam Jones, Trumbo, Chris Davis. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That team can mash. Now, they are a pitcher short, but I have always said, and I don't push. I'm not one of those, they should make a trade. I'm not, Johnny from Philly who calls Sports Talk Radio and demands the trade for, Cliff Lee again. What I see from all of this is I think they are one pitcher away. I think Ubaldo Jimenez is their weak link, and he's got to get out of that rotation. And the faster they can get one more, they need a 3. They don't need a 1. They need a 3 because they have a bunch of 2s, and if they could add a 3 instead of a couple of 5s, they can contend. I think Boston is injury-prone. Toronto's a mess right now, and I'm not a buyer of the Yankees. Look at the Orioles.
Jeremy Hellickson, hello. All right, Seth Everett here on the Sports Bash, and you can listen to him on NBC Sports.
He'd be perfect.
Exactly, and I think
perfect.
Something tells me the Phillies would be willing, right? Something tells me the Phillies would be willing.
Well, I used to do a show with Dan Duquette's cousin, so I'm going to make a call right now. Let's see if he answers my text.
Listen to Seth Everett on NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports talk network. You can listen to at NBCSportsRadio.com. Download the NBC Sports Radio mobile app today. Seth, I can't wait to do it again next week, pal.
You got it, brother.